bass.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. Brought to you by FunkinStuff.net, this is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine, musicologist, creative arts journalist, and multimedia pro. Whether you're watching the video version of this show or the audio-only podcast version, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in this show. If you enjoy this programming, there are several ways to help support Truth and Rhythm, as well as contribute to further enhancements and expansion, plus get some sweet perks and rewards in the process. First, subscribe to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Second, join Truth and Rhythm's new membership program through Patreon, which features 3 tiers for truth believers, truth seekers, and truth crusaders. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at FunkinStuff.net. At that site, which is loaded with awesome content, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk, shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funkin' Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. Sponsorship opportunities are available as well. Contact me directly at scottg@funkinstuff.net. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm. Hey, before we get started with today's show, I just want to draw your attention to new merchandise. Funkin' Stuff and Truth and Rhythm designs are in, and they look pretty darn cool. So show your support, help support the program, and show off some stylish merchandise and apparel. Only at the Funkin' Stuff store. I'm thrilled to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership original Bar-Case bassist James Alexander. For more than 50 years, he has held down the bedrock bottom for one of the greatest funk and R&B bands of all time, and his deep pocket rhythms have set the foundation for dozens of classic songs and 18 top 20 R&B singles. Alexander helped reform the group after most original members perished in the 1967 plane crash that claimed Otis Redding's life. From 1976 onward, the Bar-Case funk jams included Shake Your Rump to the Funk, Too Hop to Stop, Let's Have Some Fun, Holy Ghost, I'll Dance, Move Your Boogie Body, Hit and Run, Traffic Jammer, Freakshow on the Dancefloor, O Matic, Your Place or Mine, and Certified True. Their mellow cuts included Attitudes, Anticipation, Running in and Out of My Life, and You Can't Run Away. While forging their own gritty, authentic sound, the Bar-Case kept current by mixing in flavors of acts like the Ohio Players, Earth, Wind & Fire, Rick James, and Prince. And I've been a fan for so long, James. I was telling you before we came on, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. What about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Especially all things considered, gotta, consider myself blessed. So,
right. That's both of us, man.
And you're coming to us from Memphis today, right?
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
Born
Home
and raised.
Ribs.
Yeah, we're comparing notes on that just a little while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of being through there once or twice, and got to visit Graceland once, and so I know a little bit about it, but yeah, I know it's a musical hotbed, that's for sure.
Hey man, please come back, and let me take you around. Yeah, next time you come here, we'll take you around. We'll paint the town.
Hey, I'm gonna take you up on that. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, want to talk a little history? You certainly have a lot of great history, and you know, what drew you to the bass in the first place, James? Way back, why the bass?
Well, I actually, I tell people this all the time. I really didn't want to play bass, but what happened is, in junior high school, I wanted to be in the band, right? And I wanted to be a drummer. But what happened? My mom was on the way to buy me, a marching parade drum, and she got pickpocketed. And so I didn't end up getting anything, but I still wanted to be in the band. So when I went to the band room, and the band director asked the people to stand up, state your name and what you wanted to play. And I told him I wanted to play the drums. And he said, well, you know what? We don't need any more drummers. We need tuba players. I said, tuba? Something, I'm thinking about a tuba. Tuba, this big awkward, thing. You got to put it on your shoulders. It's a big awkward instrument. Right there. He said, well, if you want to be in the band, we need tuba players. We don't need drummers. So I wanted to be in the band so bad, so I took him up on the offer of being a tuba player. I didn't know knew nothing about tuba or anything like that. And so, but once I got into the tuba, I got pretty good at it. And then that's when I found out about the bass guitar. Well, it started off with the upright bass because I transferred from tuba to upright bass. I even made the junior symphony. And then I transferred from upright bass to electric bass. My dad bought me my first electric bass many, many, many years ago. He didn't tell me this, but he had put it in the layaway. It was a harmony bass and amp. I think the whole thing cost about maybe $100 or something like that. And that's how I started out on the electric bass.
Uh-huh. And so did you have lessons, or you just taught yourself, or how'd that go?
Actually I had a few lessons, but what really happened, what really got the ball rolling was there was this little band that used to rehearse all the time, and their bass player didn't have a bass. So I would ride my bike over to this rehearsal every Saturday so he could use my bass to rehearse. So this one particular Saturday, I rode my bicycle over there, and we were trying to get the rehearsal started, and the bass player wasn't there. So the guys kept saying, we're ready to start this rehearsal, but the bass player's not here. And they said, well, who's going to play bass? And they said, you are. But there's one small problem. I can't play bass. I don't know how to play. And so the guitar player said, well, we'll teach you what you need to know. So he taught me, a few little things. I mean, and I have to tell you, I was messing up bad. I was messing up real bad. So the next Saturday, just like I always do, I rode my bike over to the rehearsal again. So this week, the bass player showed up again. So I set my bass up, getting ready to let him use it for rehearsal and everything like that. And when I gave him the bass, the rest of the guys in the group said, what are you doing? I said, I'm giving him my bass because, I let him use my bass for rehearsal. They said, no, he's not the bass player anymore. So who's the bass player? They said, you are. I said, no way. I can't play. I don't know. So the guitar player once again said, I'll teach you what you need to know. And that's really how it all started. And that particular group that was rehearsing later ended up being the Bar-Kays.
Wow. How old were you at that time, James?
Oh, I was about 13 or 14, something like that. 13, yeah. 13, almost 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's I think supports the message of showing up is half the battle, right?
Showing up is half the battle. No questions. No question about that part.
So did you feel like you progressed very fast, or it sounds like you were just kind of thrown in the deep end and you had no choice but to really progress fast?
I don't think I progressed that fast. I think I was a slow learner, but I think everybody always tell me I had a good attitude. So that helped out a lot. But I have to tell you, I wasn't that good. I was kind of really, as they say back here in Memphis, I guess because of the barbecue, I was kind of slow. In musicians' terms, slow means that you're not that good. I mean, actually, you're kind of terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you faked it pretty good, I guess, long enough until you picked it up, and then.
Well, one thing that I always heard, and I think I got this from my dad. He said, "Fake it till you make it," and I faked it. I faked it as long as I could, and then I started getting better. Later on down the line.
And who were some of your playing influences? Was it, like your James Jamersons, or who else maybe were influences?
Probably two of my biggest influences, three biggest influences as bass players were Doug Don, James Jamerson, of course, and a guy that ended up showing me a lot. He was a music instructor. His name was Robert McGee. He was a classically trained musician. He also played the cello and the violin, and so he's the one that told me about the upright bass, and then he also played electric bass too. So that was it was great just being around him.
Do you remember like one performance or one recording where you felt like, wow, I got this now?
No, I figured, well, I guess the recording that really sticks out in my mind that I said, wow, I got this now, is when we recorded Soul Finger. Because believe it or not, we didn't know exactly what we were doing. Soul Finger came about, this singer by the name of Norman West. He sung in a group called the Soul Church, and I don't know if you've heard of them before.
Mm-mm.
But anyway, what happened is we was playing this little riff behind him in a club one night. So we went to the studio to audition for Jim Stewart. He asked us to play something. Now, man, we had already auditioned 2 other times and been turned down by Steve Cropper, with Booker T and MGs. But Jim Stewart asked us to play something. So we started playing this little groove. And he said, "What is that?" And we said, "We don't know." And he said, "Whatever it is, hold it right there." And that song ended up being Soul Finger.
Funny how that can work,
Yeah. We recorded that song in 30 minutes, and that's the 30 minutes that changed my life.
Wow. So how would you categorize, James, your playing style, as the years progressed? I mean, you're right there in the pocket, but you're not like one of those guys that just really aggressively plucks. How would you describe your style?
My upbringing and the way I was taught, I always longed to be a complete musician. In other words, the bass player, far as I'm concerned, is supposed to stay in the bass player's place, and we're supposed to, provide the bottom. To a lot of guys, especially these younger guys, that's really boring to them. They think more is more, but sometimes less is best. You know what I mean? So I really enjoy providing, the low end, the bottom, and I just try to keep it real simple. And I was always just taught to just keep it simple and just do what a bass player is supposed to do. And that's, a lot of these, I have the utmost respect for the Larry Grahams, the Marcus Millers, and all these guys. Bootsy Collins, who is a very dear friend of mine. Lewis Johnson, God rest his soul, deceased now. All these bass players, I mean, James Jamerson, I love them, but I also love what I do too. So, and I'm glad to be able to provide that bottom, that I provided for, a lot of people. And so I'm grateful for that. I don't take it for granted at all.
I liken you a little more, if I'm correct in this assumption, to players more like, Cool and Jones from the Ohio Players, and these guys that just, you keep an incredible bottom and you are the bedrock of that funk, but you don't have to like
go out there and just like be real flashy.
Right. That's the best way to describe it. Somebody like Cool or Cool in the Gang. Like you said, the guy, I can't think of his first name, Jones from Ohio.
Marshall Jones.
Marshall Jones, yeah. God rest his soul, he's deceased as well. But yeah, I just like to provide that bottom. I mean, you don't have to be real flashy. Just feel good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels real good.
Right.
How hard was it after that tragedy in the late 60s to reform the band?
It was pretty difficult at first because, man, all of these guys, we grew up together. So we spent a whole lot of time together, even though, we were young and all that stuff like that. We were together just about every day, doing something, it wasn't all music. We was doing, doing a lot of different things. So we spent a lot of time together, but the accident happened like December of 67. By April of 68, we debuted the new Barcades, re-upped with the Barcades, yeah.
And Larry Dodson was not yet part of it at that point?
No. Larry Dodson didn't come into around 1970. He came in like about 2 years later, because up to that point, we were an instrumental group. And when we brought him in, that's the way it was. I mean, he changed the group, he changed the style, and he became iconic in his own right. You know what I mean?
What
a lot of people.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of people. Mimicked and copied his style.
He's a great singer and a great stage presence.
Right.
What was your I'm sorry, James, but what was your first impressions of him when you first encountered Larry?
When I first encountered him, to be quite honest with you, and I mean, he'll kill me for saying this, but I didn't really think that much of him at first because, he sung in a doo-wop group called the Temprees. Yeah. And he was just, to be quite honest with you, he was just okay. We helped him transform from being a doo-wop guy to being the front man and the leader and the lead singer for the Barcades. He wasn't there at first. He was just an okay guy, but I have to say it that. But the thing about it, the thing that I liked about him, that he was willing to learn. He was, like all of us were young back in those days. So he had a willing spirit, and so, like you said, being there is half of the battle. Also, being willing is half of the battle too. So he definitely had the right attitude.
Sounds similar to your bass story.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah,
no question.
When and how did Alan Jones come into the picture?
Well, Alan Jones was a staff writer at Stax Records, and before the plane crash, he was just like hanging around and wanted to get involved with the Barcades, but we kept telling him, the original Barcades, we just kept telling him we didn't. I mean, for lack of a better word, we didn't really need him, but he was so persistent. He just kept hanging around, and after the plane crash, the only two members were left were myself and Ben Cawley. So Ben Cawley, because he actually was in the plane crash, he was the only surviving person that was on the plane itself. So he didn't really want to have much to do with, the reforming of the Barcades or anything. He didn't have a problem. He didn't have a problem being in it, but he didn't want to put in the leg work and all the work that had to go into, putting all the guys together and all that stuff like that. So Alan Jones saw an opportunity and he jumped on it because he came to me and said, "Hey man, I see what you're trying to do and I'm willing to help you." And you have to understand something. I mean, I was 17-year-old guy. And I didn't, nobody else was around. So he just, that's how he really got in. I mean, he came in and he came in at an opportune time, and I said, hey, let's do it.
How much older was he? About like 10, 15 years older?
He wasn't that much older. Yeah, about maybe about 10 years older than us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's deceased now. I mean, say he would have been probably pretty close to 80, if not 80,
So you guys then reeled off those Stax albums that had a real like kind of edge to them and a rock influence, and a lot of great stuff on there. And when I discovered the group, being the age I am, was with the Mercury debuts. So Too Hot to Stop is what brought me into the Bar-Kays world.
All right, the album that I didn't have no shirt on.
Yeah. Well, I got that.
You got it down, huh? Look. Let me just tell you a little funny story about that.
Well, it's a little version right there.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's the album that I didn't have a shirt on. But you know what? I've been told if I take my shirt off now, they're going to tell you to please put your shirt back on, okay? Put your shirt back on, James. Yeah, and that's okay. It's okay, Hey.
Well, hey, you know what?
I'm an older guy, and I don't have to apologize about nothing no more.
The music is timeless. Our physiques, well,
Yeah, it is what it is, man.
That's all right. That's perfectly okay. I understand. So were you disappointed? How did you feel about, the Stax Records period and the fact that, none of those records really blew up huge? You kind of had more success at Mercury. How'd you feel about the period before Mercury?
We didn't know what to feel. We just kept hoping that one day we would go in and record a record that, the masses would, get into. Unfortunately, it didn't happen while we were at Stax, but we didn't, you have to understand. I mean, we were living out a dream. I mean, we always dreamed of having a band, being in a band. So we were enjoying doing that. And we figured if we kept working, something good was going to happen. I mean, you have to understand, we went through the whole thing with Stax closing and all of that stuff like that. But then we took a local club gig when Stax closed. And then we always had this nursery rhyme that says, the club that we performed at was called the Family Affair. And we said, Stax closed in 1975. And we always said that we're going to play at the Family Affair, but one day we'll be playing at Madison Square. And surely enough, in 1978, 1979, we performed at Madison Square Garden with George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelics on the Mothership tour.
Wow, you guys must have been like pinching yourselves at that point.
Oh my God. I mean, look, we were so excited until when George Clinton came on stage, when the Mothership landed on the stage at Madison Square Garden, we stopped the show and presented him with a gold album, which was our first gold album, Flying High on Your Love, from the Bar-Kays. That was our first gold album. We presented to him live at Madison Square Garden. Because when we ran up there to stop the show, people saying, "What are they doing?" And when they saw what we was doing, everybody calmed down a little bit.
Wow, that's a great, rise to glory story right there.
Right.
Do you remember the process of making Too Hot to Stop? And that transition to Mercury and kind of how, your sound evolved. You really made it more funk focused and a little less on the rock.
That sound evolved from just us. I mean, we were one of those bands, not for the sake of copying off of people, But we was one of those bands that always listened to a whole lot of music. But we weren't listening to music to copy off anybody. We just listened to music just to try to stay up on what's going on in today's world. And so that's how it all evolved. And plus, you know, we had a lot of jam sessions. So a lot of songs and stuff that we do or end up doing came out of those jam sessions as well.
Did you expect a track like Shake Your Rump to be a hit like it was?
We had no idea. Which, mind you, Shake Your Rump was the first song that we recorded on the Two Out to Stop album. I mean, there were no other songs before Shake Your Rump to the Funk. In fact, Shake Your Rump is what got us the deal with Mercury Records. They heard the song and they said, Charlie Fash heard the song. He immediately said he wanted to sign the Barcades. He signed us to Mercury Records and then told us that they wanted to extend our contract from a single to an album deal.
Were you excited to be on the same label as Ohio Players at that point? And I think Confunction, they had some real good funk acts on that label already.
Confunction wasn't on the label at that point. We after the Ohio Players, we were one of the first groups to get signed after them. And then came Confunction along, then Kool and the Gang came along, Cameo, the Fatback Band, and the list goes on and on, you know, because Mercury had the funk bands.
Mm-hmm.
Gap Band, all those bands came after the Barcades. Well, actually, really, it was the Ohio Players first, then the Barcades, then everybody else.
Yeah, because Too Hot to Stop, I think, was like 76, I want to say.
Yeah, 76, yeah.
It was just such a great album. I mean, like I said, at the time, James, I thought that was the first one. So I was like, wow, this is unbelievable for a first record. I was naive. I've found the other stuff later, but every track in that album is really great. And even, I think there's a lot of hidden gems on there. Even something like Cozy is really cool. You know, and White House Orgy, the instrumental, and just, you know, a lot of great stuff on there.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm glad you like it. You know, I kind of like it a little bit myself too. Just a little bit.
Yeah. And you came back hot and heavy, like you said. That next one was a gold record, and you kept, you know, Shut the Funk Up, and all these hits just kept coming. And what role did not everyone, but, you know, who were some of the guys in the band that were instrumental in kind of guiding what we heard?
It would be myself, Larry Dodson, of course, Harvey Henderson, Winston Stewart. We were the kind of like the core band members that really kind of, you know, for the most part, collab on just about everything. Alan Jones also played a big part in that. But then you had some people like our keyboardist and vocalist, Mark Bynum, who added some flavor. I mean, he wrote a song called Unforgettable Dream, which was probably next to Anticipation, probably is one of our strongest ballads. But, you know, we're noted for funk songs, but people forget about the ballads that we had, that like Anticipation, you know, Unforgettable Dream, Running In and Out of My Life, Today Is the Day. You know, so we got, to me, we have just as many ballad hits, I mean, records that came off pretty strong as we did up-tempo songs. So, you know, we're grateful for all of that. I mean, because we couldn't do it without the fans. The fans chose those songs, you know, and one song that we recorded called Attitudes, we had no idea that song was going to catch on.
Yeah, they're great. It's something about those ballads. They still have like the soul of funk going through them, you know, even though they're mellower. At least for me, I still get that feeling, you know, that really deep soul
Get that
feeling.
funk feeling?
Yeah, yeah. It just kind of embraces you, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
So how would you say that the live show evolved, you know, during that time?
The live show evolved, you know, we was one of those bands that always like to rehearse. So we rehearse, and we rehearse again. We just, I mean, the live shows came out of just a lot of rehearsing, a lot of changing things around, and a lot of rehearsing, and a lot of jam sessions. And from the jam sessions, we kind of like put, our shows and stuff together. What will fit where, this will fit here, this will fit there. All of that, a lot of that came from just us jamming around.
Can you share one or two like unforgettable memories aside from the Madison Square Garden one? Maybe something weird happened with the snake or the dry ice or something, I don't know, or something happened.
Oh yeah, we were somewhere in Ohio, and at first back in the early days, Larry Dodson and I were roommates, and so what happened is Larry, some kind of way the snake got loose in the room. He had him in this. He always carried him in this net type bag, and the snake got loose in the room, and actually the snake had figured out a way. Because we stand in like one of these motels back in those days. We call them a roach motel, and the snake found a little crack, and he got up in between the wall. So we tried to pull the snake out, and we couldn't pull him out. So we had to call the fire department. And when we called the fire department came in with axes and all this stuff like that. So they're going to try to just cut the wall down. And so they tried to pull the snake out. And then before they start taking the axes and stuff, they was trying to pull on the snake. But anyway, the snake did something and caused the whole electricity in the whole hotel to go off. The hotel went black. So we made the news and all this stuff like that. Band in motel with a reptile in their room causes the hotel lights to go off. It was all in Jet magazine. You ever heard of Jet magazine before?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Jet magazine. It was all in Jet. It was all in the local papers. We were somewhere in Ohio. I just can't remember the city right now.
Any second thoughts on keeping the snake in the act after that?
No, we kept the snake in the act up until when Larry left. We told him, asked him to take the snake with him. We're going to retire the snake when he retired.
Really? Was it the same snake the whole time?
Oh no, it was different snakes, but we used the same name. The snake was always called Baby Girl, and we couldn't. That's what we called the snake, Baby Girl.
Here you are. Lost you for a moment.
Yep.
Welcome back.
Right.
What about in terms of a performance? Was there any one that really just stands out that was maybe like a huge crowd, or maybe the power went out, or who knows what?
Well, no, we some of our strongest performances, believe it or not, were been here in our own hometown in Memphis, Tennessee, because we were one of the few bands that live in Memphis and that we could headline shows right here in Memphis, Tennessee. So that's always been a big thing for us.
It must have been crazy when you guys first kind of did your first homecoming after hitting success. What was it like doing your first show in your hometown after you guys hit it like that?
Right. Well, we did an annual thing every year. We do like a Barcades homecoming type show, and it always, there was a venue here in Memphis called the Mid-South Coliseum, and it was always sold out. So we always did that, and it was great.
Mm-hmm. When you were in the studio laying down all those incredible songs that I mentioned in the intro, did you come up with the bass parts on your own, or how were they developed?
A lot of the bass parts I came up with on my own, but I must honestly admit I didn't come up with all of them, but most of them I did. You know what I mean? I mean, some of them. I mean, we kind of were wide open. Some of them I just I didn't come up with the bass line. Or I came up with a bass line and they didn't like it, so they changed it. So I said, okay. And then as it turned out, they had the better idea for a bass part anyway.
Were you always happy with the final mixes, or were you ever like, wait, hey, wait, the bass is down too low in the mix?
Oh yeah, all the time. I want the bass up loud. Yeah, I'm a little vain when it comes to that. I wanted the bass up loud, but it always worked out. I mean, we fortunately we had some great engineers, and they always put everything where it's supposed to be.
One wild thing that happened for those of us that were fans in the late 70s was, you guys had hit it big. You had 2 or 3 Mercury albums out. And then out of nowhere, I heard this song on the radio that was just incredible. And I was like, what album is that on? How did I miss that? And of course, it was Holy Ghost. And, Stax had reached back and put out that record that you guys had not had out previously. What happened with that? I mean, when was that actually recorded?
Oh, that was recorded. I can't exactly remember, but it was recorded. It had to be recorded like it was recorded like probably 74, 73, 74, somewhere in that area. It was just something that we was working on because we had about 4 or 5 or 6 different versions of Holy Ghost. And if you listen to the album called Money Talks, there's 2 or 3 different versions on that album of Holy Ghost. But there's even more. There's maybe 4 or 5 versions that you didn't even hear.
Actually, I still have my original 12-inch from 1978 right there.
Oh, wow. How about that? Now, what city are you in? You say you're in Charlotte, North Carolina?
I am now, but I was in Los Angeles at that time, and I was a club and mobile disc jockey for many years. And so I was always playing great records like Holy Ghost.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah.
I mean, I see a guitar in the background. You play guitar as well?
I dabble.
And keyboards too, huh?
I dabble. Anything music, it's just
right.
Yeah, music and sports. There's some sports stuff back there too.
Yeah, I see you got a Lakers hat on.
Yeah.
So we got the Grizzlies down here, and I think the Lakers just beat the Grizzlies a couple of nights ago. I'm not too happy about that.
Yeah, well, the season just started.
Right. That's what I said. Yeah.
So Holy Ghost, though, I actually just did James a radio show where I picked my top funk tracks of all time, and Holy Ghost is in my top 20. So, yeah,
it was.
Yeah,
oh wow, how great is that?
Yeah. Were you surprised that became a hit like it did? And how did you feel? Were you like, hey, what are they doing? Or were you glad about it?
We were kind of upset at first because we had a record that was a hit on Mercury at the time called Shine, and that's the first time that I can really honestly say that we had 2 top 10 records at the same time. And so that just made our stock go up.
Do you think that Holy Ghost would have been that successful had you guys not hit it big on Mercury at that point?
I think Holy Ghost would have been it would have been successful in its own right. I mean, that's just a hell of a. I mean, it's just. I mean, what they did to it, because we had mixed it, they added a few little minor things on there, and it just brought the song out even more.
And so you guys gave in and started doing on your shows, I'm sure, right?
Oh, of course. And now there's, a lot of places the 2 songs that we can't leave without doing, one is Anticipation, the other one is Holy Ghost. We must do those 2 songs, whatever show we do.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Those are both Stone classics for sure.
Right.
You'd be hard pressed to do all of your great songs in a show. You got so many.
Man, I mean, we have to do most of them. I mean, most of the time, most concerts we average playing about an hour, but we could play an hour and a half or 2 hours easy, and still not cover all the songs.
Exactly.
And I think, and I'm grateful for this. That is a welcomed problem to have. Yeah,
no doubt. You mentioned P-Funk, James. Who else from back in the day when you're doing those funk fests in the 70s, maybe into early 80s, really impressed you as a band, another band?
I was really impressed with Confunction. I mean, probably Confunction and Lakeside are probably two of my favorite bands, and we still actually Confunction and Lakeside. We both still remain friends today. We still are good, good friends today. And we stay in touch with each other. In fact, I was just telling my people, my people, my crew that we work together, that we're gonna try to get a kind of like a holiday show with either the Barcades and Confunction or the Barcades and Lakeside here in Memphis, Tennessee. We're gonna try to get that done before the end of the year is out.
That's fantastic. And it's so great too that both of those bands are still at it and going too, just like the Barcades.
Right. But according to them, they say we inspired them a lot. I mean, and I'm grateful for that too. I know we had a lot of influence on Confunction, on Lakeside, on Zap, on Switch, on the Daz Band, and the list goes on. But we have you heard of a group called Pleasure?
Oh yeah, Glide, all-time great.
Yeah. We had a big influence on them as well. So, we're grateful for all of that.
Well, you'll be happy to know Pleasure actually does the theme song for my show, Truth and Rhythm.
They do?
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, Michael Hepburn and Nate Phillips. Yeah.
How about that, man?
Yeah. So it's in the family. How do you think, or what is it about the Barcades, do you think, that helped keep you guys in the mix and relevant for so long? Because especially when it went into the 80s, so many funk bands kind of like fell by the wayside and they stopped having horn sections and the sounds changed. But the Barcades kept coming up with solid records through most of the 80s, for sure.
Well, I think one of the things that kept us going is, we don't really take ourselves so serious. And I know I like to always keep a lot of young people around me. So, that helps me out a lot. So, that helps out a lot. And then plus I'm always listening. I'm always listening to what's current, what the trends are and all that kind of stuff like that. And so all of that really helps me out tremendously.
Yeah, well, you guys really evolved when the synth sound came into the funk. You guys
right
adapted right to it and kept going.
Yeah, well, we can always try to figure out a way to keep it going, man. Not only do we like to play music, actually, I have to say that I like what music can bring. I mean, what I mean by that is, music we have used music to bring people together, and it has brought great joy to a lot of families and everything like that. Yeah.
There's sort of a delicate balancing act, James, I think, between taking in influences and trends and incorporating that into what you're doing and still maintaining your own identity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the Barcades, managed that to keep, being the Barcades, but yet still have those influences?
Well, we just, hey man, we just do it. I mean, it's not, we don't have a particular formula, but it's just like, I give you an example of something. We could play a song by Earth, Wind and Fire. Just say, let's pick a song by Earth, Wind and Fire. But when we get through with the song, it won't sound like Earth, Wind and Fire. It'll sound like the Barcades, if that makes any sense to you. And it's just, it's probably just the way that we play. I can't explain it really. I can't put it into words what I'm trying to say, but we just have always managed to play a certain way, and so it just comes out that way. That has always been our thing. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, no, it's just another aspect that makes the group unique, I think.
Yeah.
But
everything we play, no matter what is up tempo or slow or whatever, it always has a feeling to it. It's always kind of soulful. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And that's just been like one of the things that we do.
What might be three of your favorite Barquet's bass lines?
Believe it or not, Posey would be one of them. You familiar with that one? Spellbound
Hmm. First album.
and Move Your Boogie Body.
Oh yeah.
I have to tell you that Move Your Boogie Body was inspired by, it was inspired a lot by Parliament. But it's not Parliament, it's the Barcades, but you know, it was that's where the inspiration came from.
Like Flashlight, or what track? Any track in particular?
Maybe One Nation Under a Groove, maybe.
Yeah, it's right around there. That was 78. I think Move Your Boogie Body maybe was 78 or 9. Yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere, yeah. Because, you know, we would always listen to all those records. And I mean, we would listen to those records. I can remember my son, you know, we sitting up listening to those records over and over and over and over again. And then sometimes what we used to always do, we used to take a hit record and just play it verbatim, you know, just like the record is. But the longer we play it, we play away from the record, and the next thing you know, we got something that's original. If that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah. Where did you do most of this jamming? Was there a particular rehearsal hall?
No, a lot of it was done directly in the studio at Arden Recording Studios in Memphis. That's where we recorded the bulk of all of our music. We recorded it at Arden Music.
Yeah.
At Arden Recording Studios. It's not, I said Arden Music, but it was at Arden Recording Studios.
Were you always happy with the direction and results, or did you have any sort of creative differences?
Oh yeah, we had creative differences all the time. I mean, you know, it's just a difference of opinion, but you know, we always were able to work that out.
And what's something about Larry that most people maybe wouldn't know or wouldn't guess?
That he and I stayed into it all the time. Because we stayed into it. I mean, we was just like two old guys, you know, just two grumpy old men. You know, I mean, we always have we have differences of opinions, you know what I mean? But you know, we always came together in the end, you know what I mean? So that's a beautiful thing.
Were you surprised that he did the retirement tour and stopped you know, playing with the band?
Yeah, I was surprised, but I knew about it way before anybody else. And you know, I didn't beg him to stay or anything like that. And I told him, I just wished him the best, you know what I mean? But I must say that I thought he was gonna retire. He didn't retire. He came back now as a solo artist, and that's fine too. We support that as well.
Yeah. Do you razz him about that at all? Like, hey, I thought you were retired.
No, man. Just
friendly, you know.
No, not even friendly. Not, it is what it is. But what I did let him know this is now he's in the game. It's gonna be competition.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be doing any funk though. That remains to be seen.
Right.
You know,
we'll see. Time will tell.
James, what would be your top 5 albums by other people of all time if you could only have 5 to groove to, listen to?
Probably one of my favorite, believe it or not. I can't think of the album. It's one of them is by James Cleveland. It was the album that he had. Jesus is the best thing that ever happened to me. Then it would be Earth, Wind, and Fire. I can't think. It's the one with Can't Hide Love and all of that.
Gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah. In which they just redid a version of Can't Hide Love. It's out right now. And then another one would be, believe it or not, Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix. That's one of my all-time favorite. I love that album. And then we'll go to when Jimi Hendrix and Buddy Miles did the live thing, the live album. I like that one too.
Gypsies, yeah.
And then another one would be, I got two more, right?
One more, I think. Yeah, you had James Cleveland, Earth, Wind and Fire, Jimi Hendrix twice, and now one more.
Led Zeppelin, the one with Lot of Love on it, that album.
Yeah, I think it might be their second one. Okay.
Led Zeppelin, that thing. I mean, that album was Led Zeppelin. I saw them one time at the Fillmore West. They were so loud, but they were so good. It was just like I was like losing it. I mean, because I never heard a band play that loud and be that good. And if I had a sixth one, can I have one more?
Sure.
Sly and the Family Stone. Just anything that Sly and the Family Stone did back in those days. Because Larry Graham also ended up being a personal friend of mine. Sly, he was okay, but Larry Graham, is one of my favorite, all-time favorite as well. And as it turned out, he Larry Graham liked the way I play. I like the way he played. He's more of a thumper and a plucker, and I just play straight bass. And so they said, "Oh man," because I was thinking just straight bass was just boring and all this stuff. And they said, "Man, we like what you do." I said, "Oh, yay!"
Wow, that's high praise right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think it is about bass players that seem to, just kind of have this great longevity and hang around? Because, we've lost a lot of great ones, rest of their souls. But when you look at the bass players, you and Cool and Bootsy and Larry Graham and so many of the funk bass players still seem to be with us.
Yeah, you forgot Verdine White.
Yeah.
But we lost Maurice White, but Verdine's still around. But another one of my favorites I forgot to say would be Robert Wilson, the Gap Band.
Yeah, well, there's one we lost. Yeah.
Yeah, bad bass players. I think it's great, man, and I think most of these guys that we talked about, they still playing, they still active.
Yeah. What does funk mean to you, James?
Funk means the world to me. Funk is just like waking up without brushing your teeth. That's funk. No, I was just to be a little more serious about it. Just this funk is just something that you can feel. I mean, it's kind of like music with a feeling. It makes you move. It doesn't necessarily have to be R&B. It can be gospel funk. It can just be all types of funk. You know what I mean? It just means that you're going to hear something that you can feel. And that's what I think funk is. It's music with a feeling.
Oh yeah. Did it challenge you moving sort of from R&B rock to that deeper funk when you made that transition?
No, it kind of happened naturally. I think to me, if something is a challenge, if it becomes too much of a challenge to you, you might need to just pass on it. You know what I mean? I like to do things just naturally, just let it flow naturally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's part of what funk is too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
James, what can we look for in the near and longer term future? What are you up to? What are you going to be up to?
Well, everybody's pushing me to finish my book. I have a working title called Soul Finger, which is my first record. And then in 2022, the Barcades will be touring, and then we will have a new album out. Basically, the Barcades Reloaded, Volume 1. And this is a whole new, young, energetic Barcades. I might be the only senior citizen in the group, but they are funky, funky, funky.
You have to keep them in line, right?
No, they keep me in line.
Is there any hip hop on there, or just R&B and funk?
We had just a tad bit, just because of the times. You have to kind of like incorporate that in. But hip hop has its place. Anyway, it has its place in music, and a lot of people try to just underrate it or whatever. But hip hop is here to stay as well.
James, man, thank you so much for sharing all the stories. It's been so great, and thank you so much for all the music that has meant so much to all of us all these years.
Right. Then I'm gonna ask Renisha. I want to know more about you too, and I want to call you sometime. Okay.
Oh, for sure, anytime, man. Yeah, I wrote
Yeah, I call you and pick your brain, and I'll let you be a springboard, a sounding board. Some of the new music that we're coming out with. To see what you think about it.
Oh, anytime.
We have a song. We got one song that Renisha and I was just talking about that you probably will love. It's called "What I'm Feeling." You will love that. It's kind of like the Barcades meet Lenny Williams meet. I don't know. It's kind of. Can you imagine something like that?
Yeah, Lenny Williams was on the show very recently. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean the Barcades meet Lenny Williams in a song. It's kind of like a little of LTD. I don't know. It's just like I think the women are just gonna go crazy when they hear that song.
Yeah, well, now you got me all psyched.
Got you all worked up?
Yeah.
Oh, how about it? Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth in Rhythm. A big thank you goes out to our guest as well as to you, the viewer and listener. Also, much gratitude to Pleasure for supplying the show's funky opening and closing music. As a reminder, you can always access the complete list of linked shows by episode at funkandstuff.net. I urge you to support this program and receive the extra benefits along with that by subscribing to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube and sharing it with funk, R&B, and jazz lovers, joining Truth and Rhythm's membership program at Patreon, submitting a donation at funkandstuff.net, buying Everything is on the One, the First Guide to Funk book at Amazon, shopping at the Funky Things store for cool merchandise at funkandstuff.net, and linking through funkandstuff.net for all of your Amazon purchases. In addition, if you're an artist or anyone seeking proven, results-oriented professional marketing, PR, writing, or editing consultation or production, check out the media services section at funkandstuff.net. Also, I encourage you to drop me a line at scottg@funkandstuff.net. I love the feedback, suggestions, guest requests, appearance and sponsorship inquiries, and just talking about my favorite subject, groove-based music. For now, and as always, this is Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibing to the rhythm of the one.